Ezekiel 45. When you divide the land by lot as an inheritance, set aside a donation to the Lord, a holy portion of the land, 8 1/3 miles long and 6 2/3 miles wide. This entire region will be holy. In this area, there will be a square section for the sanctuary, 875 by 875 feet, with 87 1/2 feet of open space all around it. From this holy portion, you will measure off an area 8 1/3 miles long and 3 1/3 miles wide, in which the sanctuary, the most holy place, will stand. It will be a holy area of the land to be used by the priests who minister in the sanctuary, who approach to serve the Lord. It will be a place for their houses as well as a holy area for the sanctuary. There will be another 8 1/3 miles long and 3 1/3 miles wide. Another area 8 1/3 miles long and 3 1/3 miles wide for the Levites who minister in the temple. It will be their possession for towns to live in, as the property of the city set inside an area 1 2/3 miles wide and 8 1/3 miles long, adjacent to the holy donation of land. It will be for the whole house of Israel, and the prince will have the area on each side of the holy donation of land and the city's property adjacent to the holy donation and the city's property, stretching to the west on the west side and to the east on the east side. Its length will correspond to one of the tribal portions from the west boundary to the eastern boundary. This will be his land as a possession in Israel. My princes will no longer oppress my people, but give the rest of the land to the house of Israel according to their tribes. This is what the Lord God says: You have gone too far, princes of Israel. Put away violence and oppression, and do what is just and right. Put an end to your evictions of my people. This is the declaration of the Lord God. You are to have honest scales, an honest dry measure, and an honest liquid measure. The dry measure and the liquid measure will be uniform, with the liquid measure containing 5½ gallons, and the dry measure holding half a bushel. Their measurement will be 1/10 of the standard larger capacity measure. The shekel will weigh 20 gerahs. Your mina will equal 60 shekels. This is the contribution you are to offer: 3 quarts from 5 bushels of wheat and 3 quarts from 5 bushels of barley. The quota of oil in liquid measures will be 1% of every core. The core equals 10 liquid measures, or 1 standard larger capacity measure, since 10 liquid measures equal 1 standard larger capacity measure, and the quota from the flock is 1 animal out of every 200 from the well-watered pastures of Israel. These are for the grain offerings, burnt offerings, and fellowship offerings, to make atonement for the people. This is the declaration of the Lord God. All the people of the land must take part in this contribution for the prince in Israel. Then the burnt offerings, grain offerings, and drink offerings for the festivals, new moons, and Sabbaths, for all the appointed times of the house of Israel, will be the prince's responsibility. He will provide the sin offerings, grain offerings, burnt offerings, and fellowship offerings to make atonement on behalf of the house of Israel. This is what the Lord God says: In the first month, on the first day of the month, you are to take a young, unblemished bull and purify the sanctuary. The priest is to take some of the blood from the sin offering and apply it to the temple doorpost, the 4 corners of the altar's ledge, and the doorpost of the gate of the inner court. You are to do the same thing on the 7th day of the month for everyone who sins unintentionally or through ignorance. In this way, you will make atonement for the people. In the first month, on the 14th day of the month, you are to celebrate the Passover, a festival of 7 days, during which unleavened bread will be clean. On that day, the prince will provide a bull as a sin offering on behalf of himself and all the people of the land. During the 7 days of the festival, he will provide 7 bulls and 7 rams without blemish as a burnt offering to the Lord on each of the 7 days, along with a male goat each day for a sin offering. He will also provide a grain offering of half a bushel per bull and a half a bushel per ram, along with a gallon of oil for every half bushel. At the festival that begins on the 15th day of the 7th month, he will provide the same things for 7 days, the same sin offerings, burnt offerings, grain offerings, and oil.